Call the meeting to order. Roll call, Jen.
Shelley Fayant,
Ginny Hipp.
Anita Matt,
Present.
Charmel Gillen, James Steele Jr.,
Nippanuna.
Carol Langford, Len Tuteeth, Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy,
Present.
Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
James Steele Sr.
Ellie, can you lead us in prayer this morning, please?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Creator, we ask that you be with us today to help guide our decisions. Help us to be here with strong hearts and open minds, and that we can just do best for everybody. And we ask that you watch over our children, our elders, all of those who are sick and struggling, those who have lost loved ones. Creator, we ask that you just be with all of us and help provide comfort and know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and good things are to come. And we ask this in all your name. Amen.
Thank you, Ellie. You have a set of minutes from December 21st?
Madam Chair, I have a couple of corrections. This is James.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you. On the first page towards, it's kind of towards the bottom, I guess. It's where Ruth Financial Management, James Steele Jr. commented that our governor stated that he would not accept these pass-through funds. So we need language that directly bypasses the state and directly funds the tribe. And then another one is, let's see, kind of on that second page where Anita, it says council convene regular session, Anita Matten and me. In the middle there, it says James serves on the board from Seattle. James serves on the Pride Foundation board from Seattle. I think those are my only corrections. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Anita.
On page 5 of 5, where about in the middle, right after the chairman's comment on the pay scale, it said Anita Matt heard from an individual that has not had their position description updated since 1989. It wasn't 1989, it was 2008 or 9. If I could correct that, thank you.
And just a clarification on the sentence before where I explained that pay scale, or wait. Shelley will have Renee Joy come provide a report next Monday. What I decided instead that was premature and that we direct all the directors to ensure that all of their employees under them PDs are updated. So that's what happened yesterday. Anita?
I'd make the motion to approve the December 21st minutes with corrections.
Motion by Anita, second by Bing. Mike, did you have a correction? Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. We have our agenda for today. Do we have any walk-ins? No walk-ins. Okay, I have something we can do after legal, and it will require Rick to be in here.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Carol. Up last week. The COVID relief payment. Okay, Ellie?
I have one item, probably for executive. It's regarding a home caregiver assistance need.
Okay, Martin?
I'll have one in open.
Okay. And then Bing and I can provide a district meeting report from last night when there's time. James?
Yeah, thank you. I have an issue that probably will require Patty Kibler. And it's in regards to family wanting to use the community center in St. Ignatius.
Okay. She's out this morning. She'll
I
be back in this afternoon, so we can bring it up this afternoon.
okay.
Go ahead.
I
Rita.
just have the announcement of my district meeting that I'll share.
Your motion to approve the agenda with additions. Motion by Charmel. Second by Mike. All those in favor? Opposed, abstain. Sorry, James, I didn't see your vote.
Sorry, I'm in favor.
Okay, motion carries unanimous. All right. Martin, you want to go first?
Madam Chair, Council, I guess I do my COVID update. Nothing's been reported since the 22nd. Can share those, but really right now probably the big push is if you're vaccinated, getting that third dose. News outlet out of Canada, a trusted one that's pretty accurate. There was a study done that the vaccine, if you've had 2 doses, is starting to kind of wane a little bit. So make sure that if you're like me that haven't got your 3rd dose, get that as soon as possible. I did reach out to Tribal Health and Patricia Hibbler to see about doing a on-site clinic here in the complex, like they kind of did the flu shots. Hopefully sooner than later. Hopefully on a Wednesday, so we could utilize council chambers, or a Monday, and we'll get details out on that as soon as possible. And so yeah, be safe out there. Flu shots, masking, washing your hands, social distancing, being smart about the people you're around, all those things that we should be doing anyway. So with that, make sure that you're watching mental health issues and you know, not only our physical health is important, our mental health is important as well. So holidays are always kind of a, you know, a tough time, whether you're around family or you're missing family. You know, it is definitely a pendulum swing of emotions. And so make sure that, you know, you're checking on people that may struggle with that, and also checking in with yourself, making sure that you're good too. So that, thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Anita, did you want to go next?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to announce that I'm having my Dixon District meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Wednesday night, 6 o'clock at the building in the agency. And talking about economic development and the new regulations and also the new executive director. So everybody's welcome. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Carol, did you want to go next?
Yep, Madam Chair, last week I brought up the COVID relief payment for this year. And there was scheduled 2 payments, one in January and one, I believe, in June. And after seeing the Facebook posts, social media posts, and the comments, I really feel there's a strong need for the full payout. And I know Bing had requested to have a discussion, further discussion about it. So I'm not sure what that means. Do you want to schedule, you want me to schedule time, or can we discuss it now? Do we have time, Madam Chair, or when do you want to do it?
Yeah, we have time. We don't, our first agenda item is until 9:30.
Okay. And Madam Chair, I am in favor of the 2,000, even though there has been people that said that having 2 payments would be nice also. But I think the need is, what I'm hearing is the need is stronger now than, and they will do what they need to do as tribal members to, you know, take care of what happens in the spring and be prepared that there won't be a second payment except for per capita. And so I think it's overwhelming. People want the 2,000, but not everybody does. So that's opening it up for discussion.
Any other comments? Bing?
Thank you, Madam Chair. After our meeting here last week, I had people call me, and had some people right outside the door here telling me that, you know, they'd sooner have their 2 payments. And reason is school closed for fall, and a lot of people don't have the money at that time for school closed. $400 is not going to buy you many clothes in August, they were telling me. Shoes being up to $200, a lot of these kids want some kind of shoes. And they just said that they just like to, you know, keep it the way we first planned it, our payment, one payment in January and the other payment in June or whenever Rick was gonna make it. But, you know, like I said the other day, you know, it's, I wouldn't have even asked for this payment if the priority issue was dealt with, you know, and so we knew where the funds were going to go and what they were going to be used for and whatnot. But as it was, you know, nothing was planned, and that's why I asked for the payment for the people. And $2,000 is a lot of money, but when it's gone, it's gone. You know, and at least if they get $1,000 payment in January, they'll still have 1,000 come in June or whenever that they can use for school clothes or whatever they want to do. But you know, I'm still advocating for the 2 payments. So, hopefully, that's, hopefully it will be thought over by the rest of the council, but I guess that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Anita.
I'd just like to comment, and I like Carol, I've heard a lot of people say that they need it more with fuel and some of the other expenses after Christmas. And it's always tough, and there's a lot of people who's also getting laid off at this time too. So it's kind of tough, but I'd go either way. I know that a lot of people are saying that they could use it now. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Anita. Go ahead, James.
Thank you. Yeah, after Carol had brought that up last week, I'd have had a number of conversations with folks, and it's, I can see I appreciate Bing's point, but I think it just is a little bit more needed now with COVID. It is a COVID relief fund. And there was a little bit of confusion from one person that, yes, there still will be the elders payment. And can someone clarify when that comes out? Because I had one tribal member was a little confused about it, and I wasn't totally sure when the elders payment comes out and when this COVID payment comes out. But my argument for the two payment, 2,000 now, would be is that there is time to, for the council to, I guess the new council to come and see if they can come up with funds for either increasing the per caps over across the board or coming up with an extra payment in the summertime to cover some of those needs that Bing was talking about.
Thank you, James. Martin?
Elder payment will be the first week in January. That's why the second R payment would be like the third week. I believe it's already in process, planned for. I was I think I was the one that suggested doing 2 payments. Being a parent of 2 kids in school, I realize how expensive things are. Christmas is, I get it. Christmas and the holidays are expensive too, but those things aren't necessities. Those are gifts. Those are things that we choose to give our kids during that time. And a lot of them turn out to be, a lot of kids like shoes, a lot of kids like clothes. So that does help their winter wardrobe. But again, school clothes are a necessity. And I would hate to have our tribal kids going to school without, because we chose to pay out funds for a group of people that just are loud and on social media and have an audience, and then they hear about that audience, and so they get louder, and it's a few people that are being loud. And so I always look out for the future, and I always look out for the majority. So thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I definitely respect Bing and Martin's point. But I think I fall on supporting giving the whole thing out now. And people who are responsible for their kids can take and put that 1,000 in a savings account and have it in June or July or August when they need it. And so that I think I'm falling toward having the whole thing right now.
Thank you, Mike. Carol?
Yeah, just a comment. You know, the reason why this even came about is one of our staff and administration had put out a post. And you look at the names and you know that either they are parents or they're grandparents struggling to make ends meet. I mean, I know these people and I know every one of you know who's doing the post. And I don't discount anybody and what their comments are. I mean, I understand there's some people that, you know, if they get the full amount, they're worried that they can't put it away because of the need and they won't have money for school clothes. You know, I get all of that. But sometimes people say, you know, the government needs to stay out of my business. Let me take care of my own affairs. And it's a tough one because I know there's some people, and I was that way when I was younger. I would have rather had 2 payments so I'd always have money for clothes. But I think this is just a different time. And with COVID, now it's coming on again. Like somebody said, people are being laid off. You know, it's just tough. And a lot of grandparents out there taking care of their grandkids. And I, you know, just the other night, Christmas night, took people up to, took presents up to the resort because of a homeless family. And, you know, it's just really sad to have to watch. And I guess Mr. Eneas is now here. And maybe I would like to hear from him on how hard it would be to go from 1,000 to 2,000. And since one of his staff made the recommendation on social media, and now we're just discussing it. Ruth?
Thank you. So I think in terms of logistics of changing the amount, that's okay, but I think the other thing to consider is the sort of format for the 1,000 and 1,000 was set up so that new enrollees between now and the second payment would be eligible for the full 2,000. So I think we'd have to think about what that looks like if it's all paid out now, like what that date might look like. And then if council wants to proceed, we would have to update the resolution, or I guess rescind the one, create another one. And I think the logistical challenge would be more in that, how do we handle that catch up? That was a pretty significant part of the discussion when the last resolution was passed. So we can do it. I would suggest if council wants to do that, we should do it quickly so that we can make the adjustments that we need to. It might require a delay of like a week or something to make sure we don't mess something up, but I'd have to look into what the steps would be to get there. But I don't have an opinion on whether it's more beneficial one way or the other. It's still the same amount of money. I just think there's some of those other things that I'd like to get some clarity on if we're going to move forward.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Rick, that I thought maybe just changing a 1 to a 2 was that easy. And I remember the discussion that Mike brought up about the 2,000. You could still, since at one point there is a deadline of June, that people still receive it up to the date of June. So that still can be considered in a resolution, just if it's worded correctly. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Lynn, Charmel, or Mike, start over. Martin, Charmel, and Lynn.
Question for Rick, if he could. These are not COVID relief funds, right? These are ARP funds, and I guess I'll probably yield for that after that.
They would be paid from the American Rescue Plan Act fund, so ARP, yes, but they would still technically, it wouldn't be CARES Act funds, but they would be similar to the $2,000 that we paid out this year in July. Still COVID relief, still with the $2,000 annual cap. So it'd be, there wouldn't be apart from normal per capita type distributions, there wouldn't be a mechanism unless there's something new that comes down to do a second payment in 2022.
Thank you, Martin. Charmel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess, excuse me, some of the things that I'm hearing make me curious about, first of all, if there's still a need to talk about priorities. I mean, I think that was one issue that prompted Bing to bring this up. So if we're lacking in recognizing priorities and making sure that those are being addressed, I think that's an issue that needs to be discussed as well. Now, as far as the distribution of the relief money, whether one or two payments, I feel like you must be saying that the cash management aspect of it isn't an issue. So I won't even bother asking about that. But as far as the need that arises due to COVID, I think that is something that we can't anticipate. So splitting it up into two payments or asking people to put it away and wait for a rainy day, I mean, that's going to be something that needs to be considered, because in June or August or next September or November, we don't know what the situation might be for people who need relief due to COVID, because COVID isn't going away next week. And next week is January. So, so I think that's something that concerns me. I don't know if the discussion on priorities would change the financial needs of individuals who are asking for assistance right now. But I guess that's a possibility that this council will need to address next week or the week after or whatever. So there was one other thing that I was, priorities, and then just the unanticipated need due to COVID. That's going to continue to go on. Seems like there was something else, but I guess for that reason, I would continue to support the two payments because of the unknowns that are coming soon. And there's a lot of need that's going to arise because of this cold spell and things like that. Now that hopefully is something that we can handle with other funds, maybe other ARP funds or something. So I think there's other needs that maybe discussion on priorities might be able to address. Thank you.
Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilwoman Gillen. This doesn't affect the priority discussion. I'm not sure if you were present for the last update that Greg did, but we have basically the ARP funds allocated into the different needs, including things that aren't direct payments, but are things that address those, like homeowners assistance, kind of miscellaneous, I would say dire need type of assistance. It's where we're pulling funding to support the well drilling and some of those things that have come up recently. A lot of stuff in Patricia Hibbler's teams. This, and part of that discussion, we set aside enough of the ARP funding to do $2,000 per member in 2022 and in 2023. So there's not a this, as long as that 2,000 per year is still a council desire, this is just timing. And we would have to make sure that we have sufficient time to move the money, to get it, honestly, to get the banks prepared. That's one of the things that is a logistic challenge that when I mentioned might take another week. Part of that is giving them time to order cash, so we don't bankrupt their banks. But in general, it's just a timing thing for us, and that's where I think the questions are more about, is there a benefit to splitting it so that there's a second safety net partway through the year, and what would you like to do, or do you have a preference on how we could draft the language to potentially capture those people that are enrolled after the payment, but before the original second payment?
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Madam Chair. The last thing that I couldn't remember earlier that I was going to mention was the fact that, we have possibly an earnings issue. I mean, the people who are needing help, I would imagine, Carol mentioned last week, I think the minutes that we just approved, that the cost of living has increased, and that the average locally here, I think, has gone from maybe $12 an hour as a living wage up to nearly $20 an hour as a living wage. So, that's the other thing. How can we keep up with that, and how many Band-Aids can we put on that? And this is one of those, temporary solutions that's going to affect a household for maybe about 30 days or, 90 days, hopefully. I mean, but it's a short-term solution. So that was the last thing I was going to mention. Thank you.
Okay, Len, and then Mike.
Thank you, Shelley, and members of the council. This is all good dialogue, good discussion. I appreciate everybody's input on this. I think, we finally have an opportunity here to really help our elders, to allow them to finally get ahead for a short period of time. And I hate to see us, miss an opportunity like that to help them. So I would go ahead and make that motion.
Can you please state your motion?
I'd make the motion to increase the stimulus settlement payment from 1,000 to 2,000.
Okay, Rick?
Madam Chair, there's a resolution already in place. I don't think a motion would be appropriate to make this change unless it directs us to revise the resolution. We can do that without a motion if that's the consensus of the council, and we'd have to bring it back for approval.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The reason I support the money going to the individuals is that I've been looking at this payment as a personal incentive, personal stimulus payment. And to me, that means it's their discretion how to use it.
Madam Chair.
James?
Yeah, I hear a motion on the floor, so I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a second by James. Any more discussion? Martin and then Carol.
Chair, I was just curious, were we gonna make the cutoff date in June then still, or can they clarify their motion for that, please?
Lynn, can you respond to that?
We need a cutoff date for enrollment purpose, for the new enrollment purposes. Is that what you were referring to?
Madam Chair, Lynn, yes, remember when we talked about the two payments and there was an extension of, was it till June, Rick? That there would be a cutoff at that time and those newborn individuals would get the full payment. And so I don't know if we need to make, and I see Rick with his hand up, I'll just refer to him or yield to him.
Thank you. If I could suggest, maybe withdrawing the motion, it sounds like there's a desire to move forward. I think it would be more appropriate to bring a resolution, a revised resolution forward with clear language that the council can act on, because we'll still have to make sure that council is comfortable with all of the language that would ultimately go in the resolution. So I think it would be beneficial to just give us the direction and have us bring it back.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, Carol, and then Martin.
I guess my follow-up to that, Rick, and no disrespect, but we have a council changeover, and if that resolution isn't brought till after that, that could change this whole discussion. So I guess time is of the essence for your staff and everybody to need to know that. So really, the motion really needs to be to just rescind previous motion, previous resolution, and bring back the new one. But this action will just give you the direction to move forward, not to approve a resolution.
Yeah, correct. I don't know if we could get it back today, given the council schedule, but we can definitely do it next Tuesday.
If there's a meeting, what if there happens to not be a meeting? So,
Yeah,
I mean, I hate to throw that in there, but it is what it is.
yeah. Well, it's part of the challenge of a government with changeover, and I'm happy to, like I said, do whatever council wishes, but there are just some logistical things that it isn't as simple as just changing a 1 to a 2. So.
Okay, Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and everyone. Yeah, I think that I thought we kind of stopped doing this where we make a decision and then we get people that are loud or in our ears or whatever reason, and then we change our mind. You know, we just, well, I guess that wasn't a good decision, so now we're changing our mind. And based on, I'm not sure what, the points about it's their money, I don't know, we're not dictating how they spend their money. If it's truly, we should stay out of their business, we shouldn't be giving money out. The savings account idea, savings accounts are not prevalent. And if they are, you set money aside and things come up and that money is gone, before you know it. And, part of this is protecting people. Part of this is, it would be, and it's helping the kids. It's helping, this idea of helping elders too. Yes, that would be great. But we have a whole program set up to help elders. And if they would do what they were set up to do, our elders wouldn't be struggling. Our elders would be taken care of. They would have fuel, they would have wood, they would have all the things that as tribal people, we should be doing already. And so this idea of this being, a major necessity right now, I get that. But also in June or July, when school's coming and powwows are here and tournaments and, traveling and all this stuff, it would be nice to have people have that. And the lights went out. That's fun. Someone's trying to make me lose my train of thought. But really, and the other thing too now is we do this, what's to say that the new council coming in can rescind it? And we've already pushed it back a week from what I'm hearing from Rick. And people are counting on that now. I've had so many people ask me, when is it coming? They don't care that it's 1 or 2. It's going to be helpful for them no matter what. Now we're going to push it back a week. And then new council comes in and maybe that new council has a different idea. And then we argue about it for another week and then we kick it again. And here we are into February. And, let's, a decision was made. As this council, as a body of 10, I believe there were 10 then, let's not go back on our word. Let's be people of integrity and do the things that we said. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. It sounds like it may be inappropriate in that we have a prior resolution to direct payments in January and June. So, who made the motion? Len? Len made the motion?
Yeah, so I would rescind that motion and once it is rescinded, I would also like them. Are we gonna do a consensus or or do we need a motion to just change the resolution?
Point of clarification. I believe what would need to happen was we'd have to vote to rescind the previous motion or the previous resolution and then have a new resolution to make it clean and it's not a consensus. I'm not in a consensus of doing one payment. So let's make that clear, please. Thank you.
Okay, so Len is rescinding his motion. James?
Yeah, I can rescind the second with the understanding that we're going to be rescinding the original resolution and making a new resolution to accommodate $2,000 payment.
Okay, Anita?
I just have a quick clarification. I don't know, rescinding the resolution shouldn't be a problem. All you're doing is changing the amount. And all those kids that are born before January or January would then be eligible. So I don't know what the problem is on enrollment.
So we are rescinding, Len is rescinding his motion. James is rescinding his second. So we're good there. Rick?
So I would recommend we bring back a resolution which rescinds the prior resolution and updates those. We will have to update the amount, which is easy, the distribution date, and then the hardest part is just going to be that language for new enrollees to make sure it's not confusing or inappropriate. But we can do all of those things. I would recommend not rescinding the prior resolution until we bring the new one forward. That way, if there is some weirdness, we don't end up without the authorization to make the payment as is.
Charmel?
Madam Chair, thank you. I just wanted to suggest that we're not considering one option, which I'll wait until Carol's done talking to Rick. Good.
Sorry, yes, I didn't get to hear your question. I apologize.
That's okay. I stopped so you could have time to visit with her. I think there's another option here, if I'm not missing it, and that would be to leave everything in place that's in place. Because I think Martin makes a very good point about people are expecting a payment on a certain date. And some people have made arrangements according to that, I'm sure. That's how people manage their expectations. So I'm still not in favor of changing it because I think that's an important point. But I think that another alternative would be to leave the resolution in place. And then if the council next week, who's sworn in, wants to have another payment 30 days later, couldn't you just do that?
Yeah, we could even, we could even do the second 1,000 potentially the following week. I mean, this has gotten complicated in part because the timeline is short and it does take a while to get all of the pieces in place to make these payments go off with minimal hitch. The downside is we try to rush and we end up with, or you end up with full mailboxes because the payment was late, or there was something that we didn't have appropriate time to do the due diligence on getting things absolutely correct. That being said, I don't know if it'll be a week. I think it's just possible with the lead time for the banks to be prepared, for us to have the funding in the right accounts. It shouldn't be an issue, but we have, for the last month, we've just been preparing for a certain distribution, and I'm trying to make sure that you guys are aware that this is a seemingly minor change, but actually has a lot of behind the scenes impact. And we will do whatever council decides or wishes to do.
Okay, Carol?
Yeah, the whole discussion on social media was to save money and going from one payment or two payments to one. And I think there was a $6,000 or $7,000 amount put out there. Is that correct about that amount would be a savings?
I don't engage in social media, so I'm not familiar with that discussion, but there's a potential cost for additional checks and additional time. But if we do that second sort of catch-up distribution, we'll have some of those costs anyways. And those costs are also incorporated into the ARPA fund amounts that we set aside. So
I guess, Rick, it was your staff that put the amount out there of the savings, so.
and I don't question that it could be the right amount.
Okay.
I just
And
not
the other
familiar with them.
comment, thank you. The other comment I'd like to make is that when we made these decisions, it wasn't out here, so the people could see this. It was made back there or out here without video.
No, it was here. It was only a month and a half ago in open session.
No, prior, the priorities, when we went through the priorities, I don't recall that we were on Facebook.
We were.
When we made the decision just recently to do a payout, it was on. But the point that people are making is that how come we weren't a part of that discussion of priorities? So the people could have input into those priorities rather than just the 10. And I understand that we're elected to represent the people and their interest, but there's still that discussion about not being a part and not being able to see publicly, which maybe they missed it. I don't know. I know there was quite a few that would have had to have missed it that didn't see it on our social media platform. So anyway, it's just a point that I needed to make. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a discussion around these priorities that happened in anything but open session. I mean, it could be a different set of priorities or something, but the ARPA priorities that are relevant to this discussion were all in open session with council. I think it was June. I think it was in June, July, and a couple other times since then, but.
And I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Assumptions are they drive us all crazy.
So do we need a motion to direct staff to prepare a resolution changing the?
I'm going to suggest whether you do or not, we're already, Greg and I are already working on the language for the updated resolution. We're going to bring it back as soon as we can.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to direct the staff to do that. I think it needs to be on the record.
I'll second.
By James, second by Len. To do that. James, do you want to specify?
Yeah, for staff to revise the resolution to include a $2,000 payment in January.
Are you going to add the stipulation about the June, the enrollees up
No,
until June?
no. I think this is just directing staff to prepare language. We can review that language when that updated resolution is presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, when this was brought up, I believe Mike's the one that brought this up about the enrollees. You know, if they're born and they're able to receive this payment and by June or by the time we pay it out. So now that what I just hear is that we're not going to do that. So anyway, you know, and there is a lot of younger people with the children and stuff that want to hang on to that money until August or whatever. But, you know, I know last night at our meeting when we have heard from conscious of them that people over 70 years old are qualified for everything that they want to sign up for. You know, what she said last night. I mean, they're qualified. All they got to do is go sign up and they receive these services that the elders program are, you know, giving out to our elders, you know, and there's people out there that's not signing up. But all they got to do is sign up and they'll be qualified for those services. But, you know, I just want to say that, you know, there's a lot of younger people out there that's going to be hurting in time school rolls around, and, you know, for not able to provide clothing, that $400 in August is not going very far, you know, so like I stated earlier, but, you know, it just those that, you know, that going to be born here, be put between now and enrolled by the end of June or whenever it is going to be left out. So just FYI.
Any more discussion? Anita?
Real quickly, Madam Chair, I thought that the reason the language was written in is that we were looking at two payments, one in January and one in June. So that's why they wrote the language in on the enrollment, was that point that they would get the whole 2,000 by June because the payment was coming out in June. Is that correct, Mike?
Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our very original action looked to make the payment in June, the whole payment in June, which meant anybody that was enrolled by June would have access to that. And then we looked at being thoughtful of our folks who might need it earlier. And so we wanted to get them paid ahead of time. That shouldn't change the right for anybody to get that money in June, since that was the original payment. And that's why I brought up the enrollment status till June. Because our original action was that a $2,000 payment would be going out in June. So those people should be vested in that. That's why I brought up that part, to say that even though $1,000 went out in January and only 1,000 in June, that those people would still get their 2,000 because that was the original action. And now if there's going to be an entire payment of 2,000 in January, I would still like to see anybody entitled to a payment as of being enrolled in June because of our original action.
I think we can include that.
Martin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It seems like our discussion for the original payout was really well thought out. Was really, you know, we discussed it. We had Rick come back once, I think. You know, we talked about it. We made a well-informed decision. And now we're just in 45 minutes, we've changed our mind and we're going to change it and we're going to make staff. And this is what's going to cost money. You know, this idea that this is going to cost us an extra $5,000 to do two. Okay, other than printing and checks, it's people doing their jobs. So that's already money that we've allocated in budgets. And Rick said that we have it for the ARP funds. You know, so again, I will be opposing this because we are making a on the fly decision. And I don't understand why. You know, we are, I mean, I get it in some ways, but you know, this is what makes us look weak. You know, we talk about the outside watching us. At times having things on social media is great. Transparency is great. But things like this, where we look like we can't figure out from one week to the next what we want to do, I mean, this is You know, I'm all about our first decision that was well-informed, well thought out. It's been started, it's executing. Now we're gonna push it back a week. I don't wanna put extra hardships on membership in January. And this, pushing it back a week will. People are probably pushing bills back to that week. Mike's on Mike. So let's stick with our original decision. And part of that too was the discussions that were had in January or July this summer. The people at the table made those decisions, made those priorities. And that continued into this resolution, or that continued that resolution to pay out 2,000 then, pay out 2,000 this year. Doesn't have to be in January, we pushed it up. I feel like membership that I've talked to, majority of them feel, which are my constituents, who are my bosses, who I listen to, are more in favor of 2 payouts. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor? Mike, Anita, Carol, James, Len. Opposed? Charmel. Myself, Bing, Martin. Ellie. Five. Motion does not carry. Okay, let's take a break before our next item, which is Ruth Sweeney capital equipment approval. We'll take a 5-minute break here. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. Ruth, did you want to go first?
I always get that backwards. Hesquext. Council, in your packet on page, excuse me, page 2 is a request to approve capital equipment. Those requests are for Tribal Lands Department. The funds have already been awarded through the BIA compact, and they were for special needs and projects previously identified. So the purchase of scanners and the post pounder are above the $5,000 threshold and requires council approval according to procurement policy.
Questions from council? Motion by Charmel to approve the capital equipment request. Second by Martin. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Michelle.
Good morning, Madam Chair and esteemed council. I have Mike Perry from our Lee School District, and he's actually dialing in from Hawaii to join us today. We are not going to share his presentation. It's on pages 3 through 15 of your packet. I do have mine loaded if there's anything particular that you would like me to show. And I hand it over to Mike.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Madam Chair and council members, for being flexible in our meeting time. Michelle suggested that I wear my Hawaii gear just to let you know where I'm at. I was never so happy to see the temperature change on my phone from 18 degrees at SeaTac to 79 when I hit Honolulu. It was the most wonderful walk outside I've ever had in my life. So, you know, first of all, I would just like to thank the council. I was able to listen to your discussion this morning, and I don't think that anybody in a leadership position has ever anticipated or imagined what we're going through in these times. And so thank you to the council for your leadership. I know many of you probably feel like I do. It used to be that it felt like whatever decision I made, I had at least 50% support. And now it feels like I have no support no matter what. I make somebody upset. So I appreciate your leadership role. Council Member Charlo, thank you for your words this morning about mental health concerns. As someone that works with youth, obviously primarily that is probably our number one concern right now. It used to be the number one concern was academics. That's no longer my number one concern. And unfortunately, I feel like it probably never will be. I think that the long-term effects of this pandemic will probably see me through my career and probably many of you as well. Also, a thank you to Tammy, Matt, and the Tribal Health Department. They have been terrific to work with. Our Lee, for the first time ever, has hired a school nurse to take care of health concerns. And obviously with the pandemic, their number one concern is dealing with that. And I know that our school nurse speaks highly of her relationship with Tammy, Matt, and the Tribal Health Department. And again, that I think speaks well to your leadership. Also, a couple of thank yous to Chair Fayant for her appearance at one of our board meetings and speaking of support and some measures and the importance of education and her willingness to offer support by the tribe. And then also on what I feel is a terrific moment for our Lee schools is Chair Fayant was able to be there as they awarded Mr. Bill Stockton as Montana Teacher of the Year, which I think speaks unbelievable about the community of our Lee, and about the education system and the importance of it here on the reservation. So again, thank you to all of you for your support. I have got that information in front of you. If you have any questions, I would be willing to answer it. I did go on and make an update as far as the classified staff. We just added another tribal member onto our staff. I would say, and I'm sure that all of us as superintendents on the reservation stay in constant contact. And I know that one of our major concerns is the lack of employees. We started out this year short. You'll see that my report is very short, and I apologize. One of the things I loved about coming to RLE from Hot Springs is that we had a dedicated employee to take care of all of our grant writing, all of our assessment, our home liaison program, our cash closet, just so many different things that I had dealt with in Hot Springs, and I was so excited. And then right before the school year started, she was hired away by the University of Montana just before the school year started. So you can see that the attention to detail in the report has gone down as I have taken over and added to my duties, and I apologize for that. But I think if you'll look at some of our assessment data, you will notice a big increase in our elementary assessment scores. And obviously we realize that that's where we need to make the biggest impact for the long lasting effects as we get going. Last year, as that's obviously what I'm reporting on, is my first year in RLE. We also had a brand new principal taking over grades 7 through 12. And so as an administrative team, that was our first year. And again, I went in thinking our priority would be academics, and obviously it has not been. It has not been pushed to the wayside. Obviously academics are extremely important, but again, I think mental health right now is our number one concern. And so we're addressing that at the forefront. So if you have any questions, I would be open to any questions from any council members.
Madam Chair.
Questions for Mike? Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question that I have, and I've been asking all of the school leadership is, we've seen the letter come out from the AA school superintendents concerning the no confidence in the state superintendent and OPI. I wanted to, some of the things that they had talked about, some of them talked about their direct dissatisfaction with they meaning the other school superintendents we talked to about Elsie Arnson. And then some schools talked about just their general problems that they're having with OPI. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to express maybe some of the challenges you may be or may not be having with OPI itself or the state superintendent of instruction. Thank you.
Thank you, council members, Madam Chair, Council Member Steele. 3 months ago, I was actually the one that brought up the idea of writing such a letter, and I was talked down off the ledge by some other colleagues. It's a tough question because we don't necessarily deal directly with Elsie Arnson. Our help obviously comes from the Office of the OPI, and we are struggling mightily with the lack of assistance from the Office of the OPI. And it basically comes down to a lack of employees. What we are hearing from the employees that are leaving is that the issue and the reason that they are leaving is because of Elsie Arnson. So I think that that's where some of that letter comes from. Our main concern is when we call the OPI for help, it's not there. We don't receive a response. We get nothing back, which has caused most superintendents to basically almost form an underlying consortium just of superintendents that contact each other for help. But there's so many things that we can't do. It's actually up to OPI and we can't get them done. For instance, one of the most concerning things is teacher certification. If our teachers aren't certified, the law specifically says that we're not allowed to pay them. I know that this is a public meeting, and I'm willing to go on public record to say that I basically have flaunted that law, because it's not our teachers' fault that they're not getting certified. It's the Office of OPI. So I'm not going to withhold money from a teacher who is doing their job and doing everything that we ask of them because of a political issue. They just released from the OPI that we're actually going to have 4 months in this second semester where they will not be issuing teaching certificates at all. There will be no one in the office. They will not be responding for a complete 4 months. And what bothers me is that the response to that is that they said to teachers not to worry, that when they come back online, teachers will have a 1 month grace period in order to get that certificate and not to worry about it. My issue is that the OPI has been behind by probably 6 to 9 months for years, and now they're going to take 4 months off and expect to get caught up in 1 month. So I think that they're unrealistic and is causing extreme frustration for those of us in the field. All the people that we contact and rely on in the OPI for help and guidance are no longer there. They've all left. So unfortunately, those that are in the school system are having to rely on ourselves and our knowledge in the field to take care of things because we have no help.
Madam Chair, can I follow up, please?
Go ahead.
Could you elaborate a little bit as to, and I'm thinking particularly of accreditation, what are some of the things that if OPI doesn't issue the licensing for your staff, what does that do? What's the implications on your accreditation and maybe funding or grants and those type of things?
Madam Chair, Councilman Steele, that is a great question. It's one that actually we can deal with and will be dealing with. The issue that I'll bring up is that we have one staff member who's a certified English teacher, but is working on getting their CTE certification. And so they've been teaching all of our CTE classes for the past couple of years while working on their classes at MSU Northern. MSU Northern shut down their program due to COVID. So we are now about to go into in fact, we are now into the 3rd year of this teacher not being certified in CTE, which will now become we call it a ding in accreditation against our high school and our junior high, because we have a non-certified, or they call it a misassigned teacher. So for the 3rd year, we'll have a misassigned teacher, which means that OPI is supposed to come in and give us guidance. Madam Chair, Councilman Steele, I think from the tone in my voice, you can probably think of what my response would be if they come in and try to offer us guidance about how we can get our teacher properly assigned. But if it goes beyond the 3rd year, then there's supposed to start being monetary sanctions against the school district for having a misassigned teacher. And I think that you could probably understand what my response probably would be to the OPI if they tried to follow through with something like that as well.
Chair, just a real quick, and thank you for your candor and answering the question. I'm just kind of thinking of how, I don't know how we as a tribe can help, but definitely that's a concern that our Native students are struggling, and then we have the school district that's having issues with OPI and the licensing of their staff. I think that's a pretty important and critical piece of you all's effort to provide good education to our students. And now we're having the OPI hamper that and hinder that. I appreciate your answer to the questions.
Thank you, James. Any other questions for Mike? Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you, Mike. I'm just wondering, are your statistics on your high school students comparable to these of your grade school students?
Madam Chair, Councilman Dolson, are you talking about assessment scores?
Yes, I am.
Madam Chair, Councilman Dolson, I can tell you that our scores are low. And that is my concern from an academic standpoint, which is why our main concentration right now is at the lower grades to try and deal with that. We've also made some major overhauls as far as our course offerings in the high school and the junior high. We've had some turnover in staff, which I think is going to help us in increasing our academics at the junior high and high school. We've purchased new curriculum that is going to help us in our areas of weakness. One of the things that we've also done at both the K-6 and the 7-12 level is we've formed leadership teams consisting basically of teachers to get together and to sit down and look at data to discuss what it is that we're missing with our students and addressing those issues. So we do know that we have academic concerns at both the junior high and high school, and that's probably our second highest priority, right behind the mental health of our students.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Yes, Mike, I would like you to tell us more specifically the interventions that you're putting in place for both the social and emotional learning and interventions in place for students that are struggling academically.
Madam Chair, council members, Michelle, and how wonderful, can I just say how wonderful it is to have Michelle back, and wishing her the best. Can't wait until she is fully recovered and keeping us in shape, because that's what we want her to do, to hold our feet to the fire, so to speak. You know, we've done a number of things. Like I said, we've have a full-time school nurse now to take some of that burden off of other staff members. We continue to employ Alta Care as our mental health counselors. We have a full-time mental health counselor in high school. We have also brought on a brand new school counselor for our 9 through 12, who also does a lot of mental health counseling. We've also started, we've hired after-school tutors, K-12. So we have tutors that are there after school for K-6 and 7 through 12. We've also made some changes to our daily routine, whereas in the past, we've had 7-period day. Now we have a 4 or 5-period day. So we've lowered the amount of classes that a student is involved in each semester. So each class is longer and fewer classes, which allows them to concentrate on those. If some of you are familiar kind of with the model that's being used down at University of Montana Western, that's kind of giving us a little bit of guidance. We kind of were able to, I guess if there was anything good, and I use that term loosely, to come out of the pandemic, is it's allowed us as educators to throw out that model that most of us know has not been working, and give us the ability to try some new things, and this is one of them. We've heard nothing but positive comments from our teachers, from our parents, and our students about what a difference it is to be able to concentrate on just 4 classes rather than 7 classes. And so what they do is that's split into quarters. So they'll take 4 to 5 classes that first quarter, and then second quarter will be a complete different 4 to 5 classes. And then the third quarter back to the original first quarter classes. So we've modified that because what we discovered was that if you have a full semester, let's say that you're taking Algebra 1, for instance, and you have Algebra 1 your freshman year, and you have it that first semester, and you finish the whole year in that first semester, according to schedule, maybe as a sophomore, you go in and you don't end up taking Algebra 2 until the second semester of your sophomore year. That means that you would end up with an entire year off of math. Not good academically. So the way that we're doing it, you're never off of a subject for more than one semester. So if you had Algebra 1 your first semester or first quarter, then you'll have it the third quarter. Then you'll have Algebra 2 your first quarter of your sophomore year. So we've made the classes longer time-wise on a daily basis so that the teacher has more one-on-one interaction time with that student. So we're trying to get away from the model where, and I know that you all have raised children and have gotten to the point probably where I have, where your student comes home and asks for help with their homework and it's beyond you. And so what we're trying to do is allow for those teachers to have more one-on-one time with students rather than where they would take 50 minutes and teach that student and then send them home to do homework. And then if they have questions, there's nothing they can do until they come back the next day. Now we're looking more of a model of, maybe the teacher is teaching for 15 to 20 minutes, then they're side by side with that student to answer questions and make sure that they understand that work before they head home for the day. So we're trying to switch up our model a little bit and give more one-on-one. Also, that's what that tutoring allows us to do, is to allow those students to come in and ask for help. We've also done some things with our athletics programs, where if a student is struggling, they're able to go in after school and meet with that tutor and work on their homework. And all of our coaches are on board to where that does not affect their ability to participate in athletics. It used to be if a student missed practice, then, playing time was cut. Our coaches are on board now with saying, hey, you know what? These are student athletes, not the other way around. And so they are on board with us getting them help after school with academics, and then they can continue on and get involved in their athletics. And there's no penalty for attending to their academics. So it's a culture change and it's going to take some time, but I truly believe that our staff is fully on board with where we're going.
Awesome, thank you.
It doesn't look like there's any more questions. We'll let you get on with your 79-degree weather.
I plan to be on the beach shortly. Thank you.
Enjoy. Thank you for the report.
Thank you. Please feel free to reach out at any time with any questions or concerns. I will always make myself available.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to accept the early report? Motion by Anita,
Second, Madam Chair.
second by Ellie. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, next up we have Lands Committee. Their information starts on page 16 in the packet.
Yes. So it's a pretty small committee because it's just me and Rachel in here today. I reached out to the office and we've been looking at everything to be bringing in for it. The normal people that come in is our Realty, George and Roberta, with anything that's been offered. It's the same as before. We didn't have any right-of-way easement issues right now, and we didn't have any business stuff that needed to come in. We just had one egg lease. So today, for the land committee discussion, doesn't need to be in executive or anything. It can be an open council. We did have a request from a lessee. A lessee is requesting an improvement lease on lease contract 4060. This agricultural lease is down in the Moise area. It has been leased by this family. And the issue paper is on page 17 of your guys' packet. from the family since 2007. It was on the fall bid, spring bid and fall bid of this year. We did not receive any tribal members bids on this in the spring, and in the fall, it was not bid on either by the family. They missed the packet. So they are requesting to do a improvement lease on this. It's Tribal Tract 4505. It is 141.08 acres with 133.20 FIP assessed O&M. As of right now, it is underneath a wheel line. The current lessee, there's the one and the one asking for the improvement lease is wanting to install a used center pivot at a value of $35,000 onto the lease. And after a 10-year improvement lease, that center pivot would revert over to the tribes. The current contract on it expires just in a couple days, December 31st, 2021. Current lessee, as it says in the paperwork there, is requesting to maintain the value that he is paying right now, which is roughly the minimum acres of $15 per acre. So if you go through there, and it shows a kind of a breakdown of what he will be paying over the 10 years, what the tribes will be getting in rental fee plus the $35,000 improvement. Tribal Land's recommendation would be to move forward and accept this improvement lease.
Anita has a question?
Yes.
Thank you, Mark. So what we're looking at is option 1 with the 10-year at the $15 per acre plus the improvement lease of $35,000 in that 10 years approximately.
Yes.
Okay. And with the pivot, I'm hoping that he works with, I know it's at the end of the line. I think this is probably the former OB Matt place.
Yes.
If I'm correct.
Yes, sure.
Because of the amount of pivots being put up down there. And I know when I talked to Ryan about them having so many on that ditch, it's pretty difficult with the current condition of the ditches to get that water down and keep it from breaking the ditch. But with that, I would make a motion to approve, go with the recommendation of Tribal Lands on lease number 4060.
Okay, motion by Anita. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to clarify then, we'll be getting the $2,116 payment every year.
Correct.
And then you say at the end of the 10 years, the used equipment will be ours.
Correct. Maintained annually by the lessee as it is right now. He is to do the same maintenance and everything that he has to be doing on the lease. He has to do the fencing. He has to do the weed treatment. He will be doing the maintenance on the pivot itself to keep it functional. And then we will receive it at the end. That's the control panel. That's the buried main line, all of the pad, all of that will revert over to the tribes.
And the 4-wheel lines that are there right now are
Those
ours.
are his personal, those will be removed from him and go somewhere else.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, Carol?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Anita, can you tell me what ditch we're talking about and the capacity of this ditch, and has somebody assessed that? I mean, I'd be concerned if it's one of those well-established ditches and it breaks. So which ditch?
Well, what I was talking about is the main Moe's Canal ditch.
Okay.
And that up above us, I don't know if this one will come out of Hillside, but we've had trouble with Hillside before blowing out. From what Ryan's told me, they do have to do kind of a work order, and Flathead Irrigation has to go out and look at the project and make sure it's going to work, you know, before they approve any pivots. But they have had problems with Hillside, and I know they're going to work on it. And I'll darn near bet you that this water comes from Hillside. I don't think it's the canal above our house.
Yeah, if you go to page 21 of the packet, you'll see a map of the lease, 4060. That falls in section 24. In section 13, just to the north of it, you see that ditch where it's coming in. That's the ditch that's in, the water will be coming out of. I don't know if it's the hillside ditch or not. I don't know the names of the ditches. But the ditch coming in through section 13 is going to be the one that feeds that lease in the center pivot.
I'm pretty sure it's probably coming from that hillside, but
All
either
the way
way,
up from Moise, from by the river on range side up in that area from that ditch.
no, that's way down below. This is across from the Moise Slough where they've done all of the NRD stuff.
It's called the
That
MA
hillside that
Flume.
goes.
The MA Flume is what it's called.
Yeah, Moise Slough, yeah.
Yep.
And it might be coming out of there, but they will have to work with FIP to assess that. Right now it is getting enough water to run the wheel lines and everything on it. So it should be accessible to do the pivot, but that's all through them.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Carol. A second by Carol. Question, Sharma?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little bit confused, honestly, Mark. What is the benefit to the lessee?
The benefit for the lessee is that he gets to do the improvement to do a better watering system. He won't have to be out there to change his wheel lines and move them as much. The center pivot will do it all on its own, timered and automatic. So that is a huge benefit for them for time consumption and saving. It also locks them in the rental price at the minimum of the $15 an acre. When you throw a center pivot onto the lease in his 5-year term to recoup his money of the investment that he put in, that rental can go to a tribal member then at a lower rental, or another non-member could bid it up even higher than what he's paying now. So it locks him in at his current rental for the 10 years. So he doesn't get like a spike bid or a raised bid on him so he can recoup his investment also of doing that improvement onto the tribal property.
So basically just doubling the term.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, one more question, Anita?
Okay, real quickly, so you guys will go down and look at the pivot that he's gonna put in and assure that it's in good working condition. And also at the end of the term will be the same.
Yes.
So that when whoever takes it over, it will be a workable system.
It's workable and operational at the same time. We do the monitoring of it at an annual time, even though that it's his improvement until at the end of the term, we make sure that it is being maintained properly, that it's being greased and it's being stored properly. So it is functional for the tribes when we take it over.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any more questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? I'm sorry, Len, I didn't get your vote.
I'm against.
Okay, Len opposes, motion carries. I just want to say that last night at our district meeting in Arlee, we had a really awesome report by Jay Smith, who talked about the Lower K Canal projects. But he also talked about the Charlo project, which probably in his lifetime is going to be a $200 million project. And everything's going to be consistent, standardized, moving into the 21st century with automatic controls and that kind of thing. So it's really exciting. Oh my gosh, he must have presented for just an hour himself with all the questions and everything. But yeah, Charlotte. And the other thing he talked about was if we had a ditch rider from Charlotte, they could easily go to Arlee or anywhere else on the project and be able to do their job without, because it's all going to be standardized. So anyway, just an FYI as far as the project and the future of the whole Charlotte system. So Okay, was that it?
That's it for us today.
Okay,
We will come back with another land committee trying to schedule one for next month if anything new comes up.
okay, Anita?
Real quickly, Mark, when do you anticipate the land ordinance being done? Because I'd like to, it still has to go out to the public, so.
Yes, actually, Dan Decker actually just asked Mike about this again, just yesterday, just for tentatively, so he would be in the know also. Right now, it is in the legal department and the lands department. The edits have all been done. All what we have presented to council, all of the editing has been done. What we have decided to do now is actually put it in departmental. So now our departments, legal department and our department have 2 weeks to go through this to make sure that it's functional and it's going to be working and it makes sense to our staff. Because they're going to be the ones that have to enforce it. So they have to know it first. They're going to get their full blown scoping from our departments first. And we figured it about mid-January. That will go out for full departmental review from all the other departments throughout the tribes. They'll have a couple of weeks to review it also, 2 to 4 weeks to review. And we're hoping to come back with public comments then too. It goes out to public for 30 days. So we're looking around sometime in March. We would like to come back. Me and Mike talked yesterday about being able to come back in to council by March. If not sooner, with the comment sheet in there, so you guys can see what all the comments that came back from the departments themselves and the public, because we've already screened a lot of this with you. It's going to be slow go if we come back with the whole document again to go over all the comments individually when they come in. We wanted to do a full comment page at one time that's attached to it, so you guys have time to read through all the comments that came up. And then we would come through and make any edits or any changes at that time to get it completed with the public comments, and then get it down for council's last review, and then down to the region for approval.
Anita and then Mike.
Oh, thank you. So I'm hoping that I can get you guys down to a district meeting so that you can explain the changes. So I was hoping the end of January, somewhere into there, because then they'd have time, they'd know they'd have time to make comments and do whatever. So maybe the end of January.
I will actually talk with Mike and them about it too. If we can get it through the departmental review and the office's review, then we should be able to get it out for public comment so they can actually see it. It may go out pre-departmental and it might go out as departmental and public at the same time. That's up a council call that could make that decision if they wanted to do it that way. We're not anticipating much comment period in that. There's going to be some questions that need to be answered, I think, through the departmental. But I think the other questions are going to be coming from the public notice is when it goes out for public comment. In that way, it'll also give the staff enough time to go through it ourselves when we go through it and we work on it on a daily basis so they get the working knowledge of it. Then any of our staff members can be going to a district meeting to explain it, is what my hopes are. So it's not a burden on just one individual or two individuals to try to get to every district meeting in a month to try to explain it. This way, everybody can go to them. They'll have a lot of specialized knowledge in what areas that they are working in. So, and be able to explain the rest.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark, can I get a copy of the full edited version that you now have, please?
Yeah, I can actually, if council wants it, I can send it to all council. We do have the version of it from Mike that we're going to go through right now. There might be a couple typos still or a formatting, but that's one thing that we want to get feedback on, is those little things that we might have missed by looking it over. So we can definitely get that emailed out to you guys, so you guys can take a look at it.
Martin?
I'm gonna try to talk in without saying anything, so we don't have to go into executive. Are you gonna bring that issue that you emailed to us, was it last week, to us, about the person over easement? You had an email chain that went back and forth.
The fence, I can bring that back in. We haven't heard anything yet from across the street on what they're doing with it. we haven't heard any more from it.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Mike, I do have that map of the districts, if you want to come down at your next break, and I can show it to you.
Okay, we're almost caught up. Next up, we have legal. Rhonda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dan is going to go ahead and conduct the presentation today. Is he on?
Yep, I see him. Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks, Madam Chair, Rhonda, council members. So we'll have 3 updates for the council today, and all 3 will be an executive session, Madam Chair. So at this time, we'd like to request executive session.